The Wendy Williams Show, a cultural phenomenon. Wendy Williams was the mouthpiece of pop culture for the better part of several decades, whether that was on the air, on radio, or on her show, The Wendy Williams Show. Wendy Williams had a long standing career and still does have a long standing career. And it's sad to see that her show is ending the way that it is. We're seeing several guest hosts on the show. Wendy's no longer on or available, and she's not able to finish out strong in the way that we would have liked to see the show. Unfortunately, we're hearing reports that the show is being canceled. And so I just wanted to take a moment and honor and acknowledge the show for what it was, what I believe it did for the culture, and frankly, how it's ending and how it's all unfolding. I think it's interesting the way that their parent company is handling it. I'm not sure if much. We'll get into my thoughts on how it's all being handled. But first, let's talk about the show itself. So, for those who do not know the format of the show, the Wendy Williams Show is a live show filmed in front of a live audience in New York. Wendy sits in front of the audience, and for the first 20 minutes, she sits and she tells her hot topics.
How you doing? I love that. Let's get started. It's time for... Yes!
The most culturally relevant part of the Wendy Williams Show is the 20-minute segment in the beginning, and that's hot topics, usually relating around relevant current events, pop culture, celebrity lives, especially celebrity news, and really getting into the business of others. So this is personally my part of the show that I am obsessed with, and still to this day am obsessed with. I've watched all of the guest hosts begrudgingly, but I have been watching them closely. And a lot of them are not built like Miss Wendy. They are not willing to go the extra mile for the story, to, I guess, sort of unveil themselves and reveal their opinions on pop culture in the way that Wendy did. So this wasn't far off from what she was known for doing. The show was built around her and her strategy for getting information out of celebrities and being willing to tell their business. So this hot topics, it only expanded. She began receiving legitimate sources, communicating with the celebrities themselves, having them on the show to respond to the actual rumors. I think that she did her best to make her reports as in-depth as possible with the information provided, with the source material provided, because granted, it is other people's business. You can only be so kind when it comes to other people's information. So that's a little bit about the show. Millennials and up, I would say, have a fondness and an obsession with this show because we were here for the messiness. We were here for the messiness that was Wendy, and still is. I gotta stop saying was, my goodness. When I say was, I mean she's no longer on my TV. I'm not seeing her anymore. She's a past tense in my life. I don't mean she kicked the bucket, but you get what I'm saying. As I was saying, my generation and up, we have this connection to Wendy that I don't know has happened to any other talk show host in these past 10 or 15 years. I'm thinking back, and I can't think of anyone else that I care about as a talk show host. Maybe Nick Cannon, but he's not just a talk show host. Let's also not forget that Wendy was entertaining us from her home. She was so entertaining that I was still watching when the show was shut down. The live audience was canceled, and she had to do the show directly from her living room after she had gotten a divorce. So she's living in an apartment, a high-rise apartment with her and her 2 cats and a whole bunch of clutter, and she is doing the freaking show, and it's the most interesting piece of content that I was consuming during the pandemic, during lockdown. It was really, really hilarious and raw. There was no laugh track. It was just her being funny, just as a person, talking these hot topics. While the world was on fire, she was talking these hot topics, um, and making us laugh with just her mannerisms and talking to her cats and telling us about the caviar that she's been eating. So I don't know if anyone else could do it like that. She has to get her props for that. That was amazing. She needs an award for how amazing the show was and enjoyable the show was. But Wendy made us care about this show, and I pretty consistently, well, after college, I stopped watching it live, but I consistently watched it on YouTube. I was catching it 9 p.m. as soon as they would drop it on YouTube the same day that they would release it live. So it's always been a big part of my ritual for the past few years, for the past decade or so. So I know that it'll be very much missed by me and by many, many others. So that's a little bit of a background on the show and its cultural significance, but let's talk about its downfall. Now, I won't be getting into Wendy's downfall because that's none of my business. We still don't have all the information on that. And frankly, that's not what this video is about. It's about the show. Wendy Show has gone to shit in the absence of Wendy. In terms of quality, in terms of ratings, the ratings have gone up. And I suppose that's the reasoning for Sherri Shepherd getting her own show. She was one of the guest hosts filling in for Wendy. She consistently filled in. In the month of November, she began filling in for Wendy. Then now she's landed a deal with the same production company or production house, whatever, whoever the heck it is, that has the Wendy Show is now going to be producing a Sherri Show with a similar vibe, the same live audience. She says it'll feel more like her when she addressed it, but similar show. Basically, she's getting the same slot, Wendy slot. Do I think that she's going to be a good replacement? Well, we'll get into that. Let's first talk about the show and its decline. I'm sorry, that was a lot of exposition. So this season started out straight guest hosts, nothing but guest hosts. We were notified that Wendy couldn't do the show, and it started off with Leah Remini. And she most certainly made it the Leah Remini show. Okay, she was telling us all her business when nobody asked. And about half of the episode, at least 10 minutes, was her just talking about her. Now, not to say that Wendy hasn't been caught doing such things. She has. But she has earned the right to do so. And it's the Wendy Show, so we actually care about her life. And I'm sure that producers probably told these guest hosts, started off like, tell us a little bit about your day, tell us about your weekend, da da da. But one thing Leah Remini is going to do is drag a point through the mud and down a hill and around the corner.
Yeah, it's supposed to change the brainwaves, by the way.
Oh, don't
David, the
start.
executive producer, is going to be so livid that I'm talking about this. Oh. Are you so mad at me that I'm talking about this? Okay, sorry. Well, let's move on.
He hated it.
Okay, so,
Hated
all right.
it.
So let's do this. Okay, so Angelina Jolie.
And I would lose Wendy sometimes when she would go on a tangent on a conversation that she had with some random person that she's talked about in the past from 30 years ago. But Leah, it was just chaotic energy. Like, I couldn't follow a sentence. She just was skipping from one thing to the next. And she was yelling. Let's talk about that. She was yelling at us, screaming. And then she addressed the fact that people online were saying that she was screaming. And then she continued to scream. She chose to continue to scream. She said, that's just me. That's just how I talk. And that's how we're moving forward, period. And that's when I shut her off. And that's when I moved on. And that's when I stopped watching her episodes. When a fight breaks out and then you just have to, join the circle to see what's going on despite, you being against violence. I'm against terrible television, but here I am. That being said, Leah Remini wasn't the only one who was going on and on about irrelevant things during their guest hostation of the situation in honor of Wendy. And a real fan will know what I'm talking about, okay? Because one thing Wendy was going to do is add Asian to the end of something. And I have adopted that, at least for this video. Anyways, you get my point about Leah Remini. She was making it all about herself, and I wasn't feeling it. But moving on from her, we also had a couple of other guest hosts. Michael Rappaport, Michael Rappaport. I actually thought that he should get his own show. His show was giving. I liked the vibes. I thought it was funny. He wasn't afraid to go there when it came to celebrities. He would have these little like quips about him where he would make jokes at the celebrity's expense, which Sherry Shepherd and Leah Remini, your jokes, they weren't giving. I mean, they're little like asides or whatever that you could tell weren't scripted. It's like, sis, stick to the script. It's not for you. Not to say that all of his jokes hit, but definitely more than Leah and Sherry. And I appreciated that he didn't make it about himself. He definitely didn't have that issue that Sherry and Leah had where they talked too much about their personal life, but he did talk a little bit too much about his suit. He let us know that he was suited and booted. He said that he's suited and booted and that he's the Cashmere King, okay? Who else do we have as a guest host? Fat Joe and Remy Ma. We had Fat Joe and Remy Ma as guest hosts, and they did their very best. I appreciate that they stuck to the notes, and they had their opinions, but ultimately I found both of them to be incredibly unrelatable. I guess the flashy nature of being a rapper, you just kind of have to be up on the new, and that's pretty much all that he was talking about. Fat Joe, that's all he was giving. He was talking about his expensive weekends and all the different bags he had to buy for his wife and his expensive outfit, how much his outfit was. Not to say that this was all that he went over, because like I said, they were sticking to the script mostly, but in the beginning and sprinkled throughout, it was just giving he's been rich for a long time and does not necessarily know how to relate to regular people. And if you're speaking to regular people, that's what most people who watch the show, besides celebrities who care too much about themselves and really just want to hear their own names come out of someone else's mouth. Besides that, it's mainly regular people who watch this show, right? And so, I don't know. I felt like he should have just tried to dig deeper into his roots, his New York roots or something. Because I didn't understand half of what he was talking about or joking about or mentioning. And then it was also giving a little bit of misogyny. It was. In his responses and his opinions to things and how I handle things. But of course, you're entitled to your own opinions. Just maybe you don't need to be a host on TV and speak on them. You can have them, though. You can have them. Just, keep them at your kitchen table, as Wendy would say. But, so those are the main hosts of note, and I don't want to make this too long. My final point and the final question that I guess I'm going to be kind of answering, but not really, is Sherry a good replacement? I've talked about her a little bit. She talked about a lot about herself, her family, and she isn't all that willing to go there. I mean, she definitely digs on her past. She goes there on her past and digs in on her ex-husbands and stuff, but when it comes to celebrities, she has a lot of friendships. She's friends with people like Niecy Nash. She has a lot of friendships in Hollywood that I feel bias her, but also gives her a nice connection. Do I think that she has the entertainment quality necessary to hold a live audience attention for an hour? No. I don't think that my attention will be held. I hope so. But I think that she's going to have to switch it up in a way that keeps us for the whole hour, because for a lot of the times with Wendy, even though Hot Topics was only 20 minutes, I was still watching the whole hour. I was still watching Ask Wendy. I was still watching Judge Wendy. All the random all the random things that she would throw on that show. I was watching it because it was her, and I wanted to see her in a situation. Even when she was cooking with a random celebrity chef, I wanted to see how she would add her hot sauce to the food. But Sherry, I mean, she's done some entertaining things. I've watched fully through so that I can give my opinion on how I feel about her holding a whole show. She's lovely, but she's not Wendy. You get what I'm saying? We need another like shtick. It can't just be topics, because that's Wendy's thing. She's gonna have to add her own spicy element to it, whether that's gonna be her celebrity friends being more into the show. I don't know what needs to happen, but I do wish them the very best of luck with the show. But ultimately, it's not the Wendy Show. The Sherry Show is going to be live later this year. Are you going to be watching? Because I'm still undecided. But I think that we can all agree that the Wendy Show was something special, and it was definitely necessary for the culture. And I'm very grateful for the space that it created for Black celebrities, for celebrities of color in general, to get their art and their messages out there, their visibility, in the same way that everyone else's content needs to be covered. Just because it's messy, like reality TV, doesn't mean that it shouldn't be reviewed or watched or recapped or discussed. And I think that was a lesson that Wendy has given to all of us, and we continue to expand on that on new platforms like here on YouTube. These commentary channels, I'm sure they would look a lot different without the influence of Wendy. So yeah, that's all I got for this topic. I'm gonna be doing more of these topic-based videos. I hope you guys get a kick out of them. I'm enjoying making them. Thanks you guys for talking with me, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.